The video starts at the gate. The police officer is met immediately with a furious Poirier. He gestures to the attendants at the gate, calling them a bunch of hoes. The police officer immediately recognizes Dustin and asks, "Are you Dustin Poirier?" And suddenly the anger is directed at the cop. He drops his backpack and says, "I'll fight you right now, let's go, let's go." The cop doesn't want to fight. He readies his taser. Poirier squares up and the cop calls for backup. Dustin Poirier is a UFC lightweight legend with a record of 30-10-1 and was recently arrested at the Atlanta airport for public drunkenness. The Atlanta police released body cam footage, and as I watched it during my morning scroll, I can't help but to see the struggle of every man within this video. After 16 years in the UFC, Dustin retired a year ago after a unanimous decision loss to Max Holloway at UFC 318 for the BMF title belt. In the interview at the UFC Freedom 250, yes, the one at the White House, the interviewer asked, "How's Dustin Poirier? Not the fighter, but just Dustin Poirier in general." And he says,
"Some days I'm great, some days I'm not so good. You know, it's up and down, honestly. You know, fighting has changed me forever."
And through his arrest at the airport, we see that that is true. For 16 years, he's trained to fight professionally and become one of the deadliest humans alive. He became what our society tells men to become, the ultimate man of action. But it started before the UFC. Growing up in Lafayette, Louisiana, fighting was in his blood.
You know, we have a fighting culture down there. When you have a disagreement, you know, you fight.
Poirier is so good at fighting. Watching his highlights, you see a man who knows what it is to look death in the face, to wield violence as an ally. I think about this John Bernthal interview on Joe Rogan, where they talk about masculinity. And John says that he believes that a crucial part of being a man is that you must have a healthy relationship with violence. When I listen to this conversation, I realize how little I know about violence, how little physical violence I have actually experienced in my life. And yet, when I hear Bernthal's opinion, I agree. I know that as a man, I should have a relationship to violence. I know that that is what is expected of me because of my dick. And in some ways, I am fortunate to not have to know it personally. But maybe it is through media, or maybe it is something more primally woven into my male Y chromosome. But it just feels like violence is a part of us. In the comment sections of the multitudes of his airport arrest videos, the tone of the mostly male audience members is that of sad reverence. Because we are told to look up to men like him. I see his mastery of violence as something to admire. I look up to UFC fighters because they obtain a slice of manliness that I would never have. He has achieved everything. He has status, money, a beautiful wife, 2 kids, the ability to provide for them, and the ability to literally physically protect them, and yet he's still out here trying to fight a police officer at Delta Gate D36. Poirier recounts a childhood. Frequent fights and run-ins with the law led him to juvenile detention. And from the stories he tells, training to be a fighter pulled him out of that spiral.
Fighting, I believe, changed my life. Finding something to put all my energy into, to focus on, to take me out of the circles I was in, just something to be great at. I didn't have that. I was just running aimlessly, reckless.
He cites the importance of the culture of discipline and self-improvement. And I believe in this culture's power. Growing up as a man, discipline is framed as a keystone of success. To keep yourself on track when your muscles ache, when your bank account's empty, when every fiber of your being wants to stop. If you have discipline, you can keep going. Discipline is the engine for perpetual motion. I know that my own success comes in part because of my own discipline. But another part of the story of masculine discipline is a story of self-denial.
Every fucking day, I don't feel like doing things that I still do. It's called discipline. It's called being a man.
For Poirier, self-denial is productive. He wanted to fight as a kid, and discipline kept him from destructive fighting. So the lack of discipline, to give into that moment of fatigue, to eat that slice of cake, to jerk off to porn again, is a sign of weakness. And the story has become so distorted to the point that we as men now see self-denial as the ends as opposed to just a byproduct of discipline. We tell ourselves that the empty feeling inside is a good thing. We weave the feeling of self-denial into the fabric of our success, so much so that when we do get the things that we strive for, we feel incomplete. And through this, we see how masculinity fails the man. The appetite of masculinity is endless because the journey that a man goes on to achieve his goals does not teach him what to do when all has been achieved. When I see Poirier square up, I see a product of what he was taught to be, what we as men are taught to be. He was taught that fighting can get you out of the dark forest, and we are taught that being a traditional man will get you success. But over the last 50 years, but mostly the last 15, 20, a new discourse has risen. The adoption of feminist thought has created an alternate reality, one that is valid and dissonant to the world of traditional masculinity. Feminism critiques patriarchy as structure, as institution, as pattern, but this critique manifests in everyday life as personal indictment. Browsing Reddit, I see post after post of young men feeling shame for their maleness because of the nature of how the discourse unfolds, that the structural truths get internalized into personal shame because men are trash. There's a sense of aimless lostness in the way that they write, an absence of certainty of who they are because they know they are men, and how they feel about themselves seems starkly different than the reality of how the world sees them. Poirier also lives in two realities, one where he's a UFC fighter, and every aspect of his life and success is defined by his fighting, and the other is his retirement, where his fighting, not training, not working out, but actually fighting another man in an octagon, no longer has a real place in his life. He is forced into a reality that feels unreal. All of the tools he knows don't work at that airport gate. A devastating left hook does nothing to help him de-escalate the situation. And in multiple interviews, he keeps saying,
I'm a danger. I've said this before. People have heard me say this, but I'm danger if I don't have anything circled on my calendar. If I'm not working towards something, trying to better myself and my family, I'm a danger to myself.
And I agree. We as men are dangers to ourselves. The rise of the manosphere, rampant online gambling, incels, alt-right, lower male literacy rates, lower male earning potential, online dating, and all of this bullshit traps us. Our grasping for meaning and guidance leads us into the hands of conmen and grifters who sell courses that promise agency. Charlatans preach the Bible to aimlessly agnostic boys to refold them into violent systems that offer a sense of stability. And on the other side, the side that's supposed to love seems to exist as criticism of the foundational piece of our identity, our maleness. So yeah, we are a danger to ourselves. Men die by suicide at roughly 3 to 4 times the rate of women in the US. Men account for about 80% of all suicide deaths in the US. And suicide is the second leading cause of death for men ages 10 to 34. Again, this is not to underplay the suffering of women. It is only to illustrate a new angle to a different problem. Because when we watch a 37-year-old multi-millionaire take off a backpack to fight a police officer, somewhere in the grainy body cam footage, we can see the possibility of his death. Perhaps at the hands of a cop, or maybe more likely by his own hands, in a dark room away from his loved ones who can't reach him. How do we reach him, and in turn reach ourselves? Perhaps it starts with reconceptualizing the things we know about what it means to be a man. Maybe we look to feminism. After all, feminism is here to stay. And there's no going back, and I'm glad, because I see how it benefits the women in my life. And more selfishly, it benefits me. The teachings and the theory of the movement actually offers a true path out of patriarchy for both women and men. But feminism puts women at the forefront of the movement. Feminism isn't ours. It is a beautiful way of thinking done by women. It speaks to the liberation from patriarchy that dominates both women and men. And yet, it might not be the right guide for us, for we must now think for ourselves. Take these things that exist in our lives, like violence and discipline, and remold them for the world that exists now. Adjusting to retirement will be work that Poirier will have to do for the rest of his life. From what we can see, this work might be infinitely harder than the training he has done to become a UFC legend. This is one of the ironies of traditional masculinity. We as a gender have a pretty deep understanding of the long, arduous lineage of manhood. It is not easier but more predictable to wake up every morning at 4 a.m. to punch a bag than to conquer and fight the things that are inside. From his most recent appearance on Joe Rogan.
Every day I would wake up for the last 20 years. How can I be a better fighter? What's new in fitness? How can I push myself? I want to be the champion, and then boom, you lay the gloves down and you wake up and you're a fucking civilian.
It is interesting he uses the language of civilian, as if his life in mixed martial arts placed him alongside the ranks of those in military service. For his work to be violence, one must live another life. But how do we integrate violence from one universe to the other? Perhaps we might look to what women say of their existence, because women must live with men. They don't have the privilege to live a dual existence. Violence is around the corner for them at all times. Is there something we can learn about their relationship to violence that can reshape our relationship to it? I don't know. So, are we now in a phase of retiring traditional masculinity? I'm not so sure, because contrary to what misogynists on the internet say, the world is not ruled by women. We men are not an underclass. We are not at the point of retirement. Perhaps if we continue this metaphor of MMA, we are in that phase of our career where we are no longer the face of the sport, but we are still here fighting. The rise of feminism has changed the sport, and the nature of our technique and the wear and tear on our bodies might mean that we need to adjust. Women are not the enemy, for the rise of new competitors is not the rise of an enemy. Instead, it is the natural evolution of the sport. Every athlete knows that they cannot compete forever. So how do we reach ourselves? It might be reframing a question we know how to answer, like, how can I be a better fighter? To questions like, how can I be a better father, or husband, community member, or man? We might not have the tools just yet, so we will have to stumble around drunkenly at Hartsfield International Airport looking for a wake-up call. For all of us, Poirier included, the real question is, do we have the discipline to do this hard work? We know what discipline looks like when it is self-denial. It looks like calling yourself a little bitch when you fail. It looks like a life of a retired fighter grinding against the oppressive suffocation of domesticity. That a life without the violence we were taught means that the life is over. The best days are behind us. But I don't believe that. Discipline can serve us. To change discipline from pushing through the pain to examining the pain for what it is. Wounds from the past.
If I could paint a picture of what you think of a classic drunk or alcoholic, very selfish, and continues to go back to it. He's actually homeless right now. Part of that, me getting in trouble at the airport, was on Father's Day. I was traveling to work, and I just couldn't stop thinking about my father, and I started drinking in the airport, and that's kind of what led to. It's just, but when I feel like that, I've been going to therapy and stuff like that. Years ago, I started going to therapy, and when I started feeling better, I stopped practicing everything I learned through therapy, and then I felt that feeling again, just I guess you call it depression, just didn't feel well. And when I feel like that, I know I shouldn't drink.
Even if he struggles to say with his chest, Poirier is able to acknowledge that he has depression. He is already a step ahead of so many men. He actually goes to therapy. But he admits that he stopped practicing the things he learned in therapy. He didn't have the discipline. Because practicing the things you learn in therapy doesn't make you more of a man. The masculine discipline he knows only helps him with sparring and deadlifts. Because discipline based on self-denial requires him to feel the pain of muscles tearing and lungs burning. But that type of push-through mentality doesn't help with emotional pain. And so he numbs the pain by taking shots of tequila at the airport. So how can discipline change? We must transform discipline from a rejection of yourself to a promise you make with yourself. Because a promise is a contract with two sides. I promise to take care of my body, I promise to take care of my mind, and I promise to take care of me. When discipline becomes the way you keep your promise, you become both sides of this contract. The promise means that you will both care and be cared for. And that's where it must start. In a world where so many men feel alone, the least we can do is to not abandon ourselves. Because when you make this promise, it is also for everyone else in your life. It's especially true for Dustin here, because at the end of the video, Dustin is alone when he is handcuffed. He is alone even though his boys, his guys, were right there on the plane with him on a trip. They don't have the discipline, so they don't come out to help. They abandon him because they only have one understanding of manhood, and that understanding doesn't involve making sure your friend doesn't get arrested. They didn't make a promise to themselves, and so they don't have the skills. And Dustin fails because they fail, because we all fail, because we all have been failed. So then what do we do? I say that you gotta wake up and start a new routine. Do reps of the things that you're weakest at. So when the time comes and your bro is getting kicked off a plane, you have the skills to grab your suitcase and get off too. Thanks so much for watching. My name is Aaron Peng, and if you like this, hit that subscribe button and follow me on Substack for more essays and writing.